Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Caroline Giegerich, who is the marketing and innovation consultant at Daily Marauder. Caroline, thank you for joining us today. And for our listeners and viewers who might not be familiar with you, would you please introduce yourself and tell us about yourself before we dive into it?
Well, thank you for having me first.
My pleasure.
So in my position, we'll pitch and execute first-to-market campaigns in emerging technology. I sit at the center, so in between all of the labels from Atlantic Records, Warner Records, Parlophone, etc. It could be anything in emerging tech, from gaming, Web3, NFC, just about anything, really.
Well, amazing. So you're pretty much in the center of it. So you know what's going on, what's happening, and what's new, and what's passé already.
Sometimes.
Okay, great. Well, let's take it back a bit and talk about what really got you started and got you involved in working with, in the music business with some of the top labels out there. What really kind of created that, how should I say, the path for you to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is the path I want to take. I want to be in the music business. I want to get involved in marketing, but it would be music business, strictly in the music business.
Well, to be honest with you, I've worked in a lot of different spaces in entertainment, but my very first job in music was as a radio DJ at an alternative radio station in Providence, Rhode Island, which doesn't exist anymore. It was called 95.5 WBRU. It was one of those idolized private radio stations that wasn't part of a big, huge media conglomerate. So we got to do a lot of things that we wanted to just on our own. It was a great stomping ground for me. I did every single show from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. to afternoon drive to morning drive. I did it all. I met a lot of people in music, and I learned a lot about why people love music so much and love their favorite artists so much. I also was a club DJ on Saturday nights, a Saturday night dance party in Providence, Rhode Island, at another place that no longer exists. That was called Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel, which was managed by a guy named Rich Lupo. The same thing, I got to look down from above and watch literally with a bird's eye view of what people reacted to in real time. And I became super passionate by that feeling of driving people, almost driving joy, as it were. And that really started it. As for many years later, my first job in entertainment was at a little company called HBO, which I was really passionate fan of.
It's not that little.
That was a joke, Bob.
I know.
I was a big fan of HBO, and a college friend of mine was like, "Hey, there's a job here. Interested?" So started in entertainment there. How I got my job at Warner Music Group is very similar. I got
Same
a text.
thing?
It's very similar. A friend let me know about the position. Someone who was then consulting for the current president of Warner Music Experience. That woman who was the president is a woman named Maria Weaver. Used to, guess what, work at HBO before my time, but there's a lot of connective tissue here.
I see that.
And she knew my mentor, a lovely, incredibly talented person named Steve Pammon, and all of that connective tissue and the fact that I really wanted to work in music sort of cycled it all around for me.
Unbelievable. I mean, I would have to say luck had to do a lot with it also, but
yes.
What an amazing journey and a path to some of the great things that you've been involved in. Caroline, so would it fair to say this is what really led you to where you are in the music tech space, which is really kind of a new thing right now that, you cannot just say music business anymore. You got to say the music tech business these days. Back in the day, say I'm in the music business. Now tech is a big part of it. And you're in the middle of it, which is pretty important right now.
I think it's still the music business, if I'm being honest. It's just that technology is the force driving it. It's sort of like when social media came to town and it was like social media marketing, and then it was just part of marketing. It's a process that is happening, but it's still the music business as driven by all of these additional tools at our disposal.
Would it be okay to go back a bit to HBO and Showtime and say, if you can share some of the memorable moments, things that you really kind of influenced you, and shaped your career? Say, these are the things that some of the people you worked with, or you met, or you came across, or certain scenarios.
Do you want a personal memory or professional memory?
Let's take both. That what shapes our lives always, both.
My favorite personal memory of HBO is when so HBO was two buildings that were connected for the old HBOers. We used to be at 4th and 6th Street, right in Bryant Park. And the HBO building was one side, and then right next to it was a building called the Grace Building, which sloped up and had other companies inside, but they were connected by a bank of elevators. So I had walked to the other bank of elevators, pressed the button, doors open. It's the entire cast of The Sopranos.
Oh my God.
Who, if you remember that show, are really big guys. They're all like shoulder to shoulder in the elevator. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the next one. They're like, no, come on. and there was literally no space in the entire elevator. It was just all these giant guys. I'm all right. Thank you so much, though. I love your show. So that was one of my favorite personal memories. Professionally, I got to work on a really exciting project for HBO boxing, which they don't have anymore. But at the time, we had identified that they didn't have a lot of stats on screen. It literally was a guy counting punches and blocks on the side of the ring, and those were the stats. But we, clearly being in tech, decided to make it a little bit more techno-focused. And so we did two things. We built something called Punch Zone that had 3 zones in the head, 3 in the body, and you could see where each boxer was landing the force. Because the mistake is that you think boxing is just two guys like wildly swinging at each other, but it's a sport, so there's some thought behind it.
Yes, a lot of strategies.
Right, which frankly, Bob, I knew nothing about boxing when I got into this, so I had no idea what was going on.
Love the show, though. I watched it. I watched the show myself back in the day. That's good. Yes.
And then the other thing we did is we put an accelerometer into a boxing glove. So then you could test the force and speed of every punch, which sounds so easy. It was so complicated because you're dealing with things like the boxing commission, that only will wrap a glove in a certain way. So it was fun, interesting, and exciting all at the same time.
We were talking about the music tech. Now you took it to another level. You created a new world. It's called the boxing tech.
The boxing tech.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Caroline, what sets you apart from other marketers in the music tech world?
I think it's that I speak tech, but I also speak creative, which is a really important skill because there's a lot of translation involved. It's like when you go to your doctor and your doctor says some sort of medical term, and you're like, just speak to me in English. Tell me, what's happening? Well, technology is the same way in that there's a lot of terms, and without the understanding of the terms, nobody can communicate. And especially for, I would say, the C-suite executives, they will never tell you that they don't understand what you're saying, which it's almost like signal loss. If nobody understands what we're talking about, then we can't make big moves and make big changes. So translating all that, I think, is one of my skills. The other one I would say is that I try to apply some balance.
Mm-hmm.
I get some shade online because some people call me a decel, which means decelerator. But what I'm trying to do is think about all the advantages of technology, but also the cons. There are some risks to certain things. And going in with eyes wide open on, okay, what's great technology that helps artists connect to fans? And what's just like shiny button stuff that is going to take up time and resources, but not make an impact? I think that's an important thing.
I mean, yes, there's I wouldn't say a thin line, but you have to be careful also not to offend the creative minds because, they focus more on the creative and they're not interested in the tech side of it. So good approach. I love it. Caroline, I mean, you have an entrepreneurial mind, obviously, working with all these companies, the knowledge, the experience that you gathered and you earned. How did, that mindset that you developed, which being an entrepreneur, shaped your approach, I would say, and the unique challenges in the music tech world?
So this always makes me think of the Friends episode where they're trying to carry the couch up the stairs. I think it's Chandler keeps going, pivot, because I have a friend who hates the word pivot, so I apologize to her for using it so profusely here, but that's honestly everything you need to know as an entrepreneur. You got to pivot 10,000 times every day, and you have to be really good at it. If change scares you or you don't know how to stay calm in adversity, these kinds of things where you're trying out new tech is not going to work out for you, because it's usually down to the wire craziness that you have to deal with and sort of bob and weave around, and things go very wrong sometimes, and you just sort of have to roll with it.
Good way to approach it and look at it. I know we don't want to get into anything to do with tech and AI and all that, but tech is very important. It's part of what you do. How do you ensure, that you work with a lot of artists and that tech is an enhancement tool, is not a replacement tool? We're not looking to overshadow any authenticity or any original creativity. How do you work in that thin line with artists and all of that? Like, how do you find the happy medium where say, hey, this is only for enhancement to make things better? No, we're not looking to replace anybody.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is this solving any current problem that either the artist has or the fan has? If it's not, and in fact you've manufactured the problem, it's probably not going to lead to success. I'll give you a specific use case. So the department that I'm in works on VIP experiences for artists. And some of the things that are really valuable to fans in VIP are, of course, the seat selection. They're usually the best seats in the house. You get first access to merch. And then many times there'll be either an artist meet and greet, maybe a sound check, something of this varietal that the fan gets like special access with the artist. So at times artists can't do these meet and greets. In a specific example, it was because our artist had dressed up in like full prosthetics, and just that art of getting into the prosthetics takes so long that she wasn't able to do physically a meet and greet before the show. And so rather than us trying to replace her, we were trying to put in, like, make a solve with technology where clearly they're not going to get the artist. She's not available. But what else can we do where we bring something special to the fan VIP? And what we chose to do was an AR mirror in which the artist had done like a 360 capture and an exclusive like look with the full prosthetics. She walks into frame with the fan walks in, they look at each other, she blows a kiss, she waves, they record a moment together, and then the fan can email that to themselves to have both the photo and the video forever of that show. Again, we all acknowledge this is not the real person, and we're not replacing it because we never had it in the place. We're just trying to do something else with technology that still feels kind of special, for them, but doesn't replace the number one paramount thing, which is having the artist in person. So I think that's the example I always like, because it's about enhancing something versus replacing something. It's like, okay, here's our problem. Fans love artist connection. How do we enable that artist fan connection rather than trying to do something creepy with tech?
No, I mean, listen, you know what's going on out there, and a lot of the bad negativity or some of the bad kind of press it's getting. To me, absolutely 100% with you. Yes, technology is here to enhance, to make things better access, make things, get your point across, even cross the world much faster than before. So yes, all in for technology. We support it, and we love our authentic creative artists out there, and we're here to help them. What major challenges you faced with NFC or AR projects, and how do you tackle them?
So, fun fact. With NFC, one of the biggest major challenges is everyone thinks I'm talking about NFTs. First, up front, NFT and NFC are completely different things. NFT is basically a digital image or digital good or something that's connected to the blockchain. NFC is near field communication, which is about your phone in close proximity to a chip, and they can talk to each other. So I found, funny enough, that the first real major issue is me pitching it. because
Uh-huh.
nobody seemed to understand what I was talking about. And if you remember in music, there was a wave in which Web3 was everywhere, and then
Mm.
no one wanted to talk about it. So even the fact that it seemed associated from the jump, it was like, oh, no, 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 we don't want to do that. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not an NFT. That was thing number one. The second was we had done the first connected merchandise, a t-shirt that had an NFC chip in it for Nessa Barrett. And it was the first artist connected merch at the company. And it's always seems cool for everyone to identify that they want to do this. But then comes the tricky part. You got to put something on the chip that's exclusive for fans so they have something special on the chip, right? And so we were getting very, very close to this shirt coming out and shipping to fans. And we hadn't decided on what that content would be. So it was real sweat, right? Because what you don't want is to have this in hands and it literally has nothing on it, because then you've advertised something that didn't actually come with the product. You know, it's like if you ordered your burger with cheese and pickles and lettuce and tomato and you just got a burger on a bun. So, that's the down to the wire stuff where you really have to say like, okay, we can't do this thing if we're not all invested in making it special, because it's, again, to your earlier point, not just a cool tech thing. It's about the connection that the fan has with the artist, and they want to feel that via the technology. With AR, it was a different problem. Everyone kind of knew what AR was, but because we were doing an AR try-on feature with the Gorillaz surrounding their new album At the Time Cracker Island, we were doing try-on. It was still even new for Snapchat at the time, and we had to make sure that the quality and the fidelity was right, because at first it looked like there was a giant balloon image on somebody's person versus a sweatshirt, and obviously that doesn't represent the artist, that doesn't represent us. So we had to do a lot of iterations to get it down to looking like, oh, she's actually wearing that sweatshirt. Not really, but really. It took a lot to get it to a place where we all felt like, okay, that's high enough quality that we feel like that represents, the creative vision of what this album's all about.
Very clever. I love it. Caroline, how do you keep, how should I say, up to date with all the rapid tech that I think we're in a race right now, actually, with technology, especially in the music business. How do you keep yourself updated to all of this and on top of it? Because you need to know what's happening, what's new, and how to tackle it and how to get it involved in your line of work.
For sure. Yeah. I think the first thing to do is to be like a super nerd. I mean, I'm just authentically super interested and fascinated in technology and how it affects all of our lives. I'm just super into it. If you knew me in a personal fashion, you would know that I talk about it all the time. I literally went hiking yesterday and I had a full chat about technology. I'm authentically really into it, which means I'm constantly reading about it. I'm constantly talking about it. I'm constantly asking other people what they think about it, because it's not just what I think. I'm just one person. I want to know what everybody else thinks about it. Like, what does my mom think about AI? Does she even know what it is? Does she think it's scary? I'm constantly asking people questions. Like, if you hearkened back to what a 10-year-old me looked like in church, I used to carry around, I was like a DJ in training. I used to carry around one of those little radios with a microphone, and I would interview people after church. How did you feel about the sermon? What did you think he was trying to communicate? And authentically just really dialed in, not just to the technology itself, but to what people think about it. And I'm super humble to know that I don't know anything. I'm just a microcosm of the universe trying to figure this wild, wacky world out. So I'm constantly learning, constantly growing. Anybody can teach me at any particular moment. And that's the best I can do, I would say.
As you involve in the music tech world and you work with artists, what do you think next or the future of the music tech world? Like, where are we going? Where are we evolving to? Right now, everybody goes, listen, you go to the regular streaming platform, which we all love. We're grateful for them. Absolutely. It's a great way that artists connect with people all over the world in places that we never dreamed of because of DSPs, the digital streaming platform like Spotify's and Apple's and others and Amazon and all of these platforms. What's next? you witnessed the digital world. You worked at a radio station. You know how we transferred from physical buildings and real estate. They call it brick and mortar locations, and billions of dollars worth of each company, and they just gone. If you ask any 10-year-old right now, say, "Hey, have you heard of Tower Record or FYE or this and that?" Say, "What is that?" Or Sam Goody? No, what is that? Is that a new platform or something? They're gone. I wouldn't say some of the DSP is going to disappear, but what do you think next? How are we going to consume content? Nothing stays forever. And as technology is evolving in a rapid pace right now, as you witness and you're part of it, what do you think is the future?
Yeah.
In your own opinion, we're not influencing, just, we're having a talk, and I'm really interested and intrigued because of your experience. Or what do you do?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind, just as a former television person, is it's not so much that you have to kill the physical presence. It's that you have to transform it into something else that is in line with the times. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I write about it all the time because it just burns me inside, is the movie theater. The movie theater is slowly dying, but it doesn't need to. It actually could easily transform itself because entertainment today is so broad and there's so many different hands. And there are some people doing this, by the way. Like if you think about what the Sphere is trying to do, though, losing a lot of money.
Yes.
Others are trying to do. There are other manifestations of what entertainment looks like. And it's not just on a 2D screen in front of your face. So I would have said that that's the same thing that we could expect for some of these listening experiences as well. It's not like people just woke up one day and were like, you know what? I don't want to listen to music with other people in physical space. They go to tours, right? So that's still something that's very human about us. It's just that maybe they don't want to go stand in Tower Records in Union Square in a huge, I can't even imagine the rent on what that space was. But maybe they still want something curated, and maybe they still want physical spaces where they actually see human beings. However, the thing that really comes to mind above all else is this idea of super fans. And I have to imagine that you have talked about it here on your podcast before.
Yes.
But it really impacts me a lot because of two things. One, I heard a stat from Music Ally that is stuck in my brain in caps lock with a highlighter on it. And this is that they said that super fans spend 80% more than your average fan. Also, I, for a very short period of time, ran digital at a cosmetics company called Smashbox. And in the beauty industry, loyalty is everything. It drives the whole industry. That's interesting. Yes. And then I started to think about me as a fan. I've been a Beastie Boys fan since the early 90s, just after Paul's Boutique came out. And I've gone to all the shows, bought all the stuff, read the book, watched the docs. But to the Beastie Boys, I'm like fan 10,424, like I'm a number in a system. They don't know anything different about me. So it really harms two sides of the equation, the fan and the artist, right? The artist doesn't get to have that special relationship with the fans who really turn up, tune out. Maybe from the very beginning, who are the Beastie Boys fans that were going to their early punk shows when nobody showed up on the Lower East Side? Who are these people? If they knew who those people were, I'm sure over time they would want to reward them with special things, which then draws the fan in more because now they feel seen and heard and incentivized. So I think the biggest technology that's going to drive music in the future is going to be things that leans in on fan loyalty. If you can identify them, if you can reward them, and then if you can drive them to keep carrying behaviors that you want them to do as an artist, I think it starts to create a much more special relationship between the artist and the fan. And that's what both sides of the equation so desperately want.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yes, I had a talk with someone once, and they said the only problem we have with the super fans, a lot of them, we have no access to the super fans because it's all on social media. A lot of these fans actually on Instagram, on Facebook, on other platforms, and we don't own them. The social media platform literally own these fans or super fans. And just the new technology is gearing towards how do we connect directly with these super fans, really directly with them, so we can able to market to them directly, not through another vehicle of connection, which is,
that's exactly right. But it didn't used to be that way. Like if you think about the Elvis era, right?
Yes.
Elvis used to literally mail his fans updates about where he was going to play. That's a one-to-one relationship. It's just that social media was so enticing. It's like, woo, one to many, megaphone.
Yes.
You know, of course they all went to social media.
And if an account get lost, they're gone. No access, right. No connection.
No connection. I mean, there is some connection, right? Because now you've got your megaphone out and you're like blasting your message. Yeah. But it's not special. And all of these people are just one, nothing different about them.
Correct.
And it feels like, to be honest with you, Web3 seems to woken a lot of people up to wanting to do that. It's just that Web3 was so clunky and weird in user experience. That wasn't the way. It's not even like you needed Web3, but it seemed to me that it woke people up to, wait a second, you know, we can have 1,000 fans who really love us and build a business. Well, then what does that mean? Even for artists who are like, you know, the Ed Sheerans of the world, it means something really meaningful.
Correct. Caroline, we didn't talk about that. You are a Webby Award judge. And what music tech innovations that you're most excited about?
So I really liked Google submitted and won, by the way, in the arena of AI for a project called TextFX. And TextFX was built for Lupe Fiasco as part of his music production process.
Yes.
It's literally taking words and breaking them down into their vestiges so you could see all of the different words that break out of one word. It's an inspiration for rappers, right? Because if you type in a word and then it gives you all of the different manifestations that can, you know, flow out of that word, it really is like an inspiration for your creative process. And I thought that was so interesting because it wasn't, going back to your part about replacing, it wasn't replacing a rapper. It wasn't like writing the whole Lupe Fiasco song. It was, what can we do to empower the artist to be able to do what he does so well as a human being even better? I loved it. The other thing I really liked was Coca-Cola's AR vending machine, because, you know, I love the AR so much. They did this vending machine, like a classic vending machine, but it had a big screen on the front and you could walk up to it and you could basically use touch gestures to order the Coca-Cola that you wanted. And then also it would like fit you with like merch. So AR try on, it would put filters on. It just became not just a vending machine, but a whole experience for people to play around with. And this, to my earlier point about like, you don't need to like say physical is not important, but it needs to transform as another thing, a thing that feels like fun for the times, you know? And I feel like Coke really got that memo. It was like, oh yeah, I see you with some AR fun. So those are the two that really stood out.
Yes, I mean, that's the new thing, experience. And a lot of the fans or super fans, even the younger generations now, the 10-year-old, the 12 and 14, they want more than that. They do want to, absolutely. That, you know, everybody wants to be part of that experience. They call it the experiential. What is the key message you got out of your TEDx talk about tech impact in the music or on music and fan interaction?
Well, my TEDx talk was about digital overload and its effects on creativity. So that's kind of a two-part story in my mind for artists and for fans. For artists, it's don't let the tech take over the specialness of what you do. Let it aid you, but don't let it take over such that you are literally cog in its wheel. You know, there's like, and everything has its maximum, you know, like, you know, when you're overeating, you know, when you're shopping too much, you know, when, you know, keep going with that message. There's got to be some balance to it. And so the whole TEDx was like, what happens when you basically over-index on all of these digital tools? What happens to your creative spirit? The answer was, after much investigation with neuroscientists and psychologists and everyone else, it's not good. So I'm not saying tech bad. I'm saying like everything, there needs to be a balance. And with fans, it's kind of the same thing. You want a relationship with the artist. Well, I would say the best possible thing you could do is go see them on tour. Go watch their show. That's about the best thing you can have. So
absolutely.
I think that's the way that would touch like a artist fan relationship, is like we all like tech tools, but at the end of the day, human to human interaction in my mind is going forever to be the most important thing. Right.
Yes. Always need to be there. 100%. 100%. Some of our viewers and listeners at Soundbreaker are going to watch this episode, and they're going to be inspired by your story and by your journey so far and the path that you carved for yourself. How interesting, and how you learned and gained the knowledge and all of that. What advice you would have for them, for somebody who's starting to say, you know what, Caroline did it, I'm going to follow her footsteps, do the same thing?
The very first thing I did before I worked at Warner Music Group is read a book about the music business. I wanted to understand everything, like how do rights work? How do people make money or not make money on streaming? How do they make money on physical audio? How does merch work? Who makes money on ticketing? And to be honest with you, I'm still learning the answers to all of these all the time, because as you know, music can be quite complicated. But the best advice that I can offer someone, whether you're going into the business side or whether you're an artist, is to learn the mechanics of how it all works. Learn how artists market themselves. Find out literally from everything you can sign up in the business about what's being successful for artists marketing themselves. How are they connecting with fans best? What are their levers? And especially if you are new in the game, knowing all of this information is going to make you the smart person that everyone wants to talk to. It's going to make you excel in your field over time, because people are going to know that you're always striving to know what's out there, know what people are doing, know what the impact is, and that you have some understanding of the overall business is important. So I would say be adaptable, learn the business, form really tight relationships. Like, unlike any other industry I've worked in, relationships are so key in music, to the degree that I sort of had to get used to that, because I had come from very tech focused roles where it's like, because of data, do thing. But in music, relationships are so paramount that even if you told someone, because of data, do thing, they're like, but relationship. So
it is the foundation. It's really
foundation.
Is the foundation. Yeah. Yes, it really is.
So make really strong ones and put.
And how do you do that? For somebody who's new, how do you do that? Go to convention, to summits?
No, not even. I would say go talk to people in the org. I would even say that people at my level and senior to me seem to have such hard times of just going to meet new people. You know, like if someone new starts at the company and you're like, I would love to know what you do. You know what you do? You write them an email. Hey, welcome to Warner Music Group. You seem really interesting, and I would love to learn more about what you do and your background. Can we have 30 minutes? What person would say no to that?
Yes.
Right? And even if you're junior and you're asking a more senior person that shows a degree of chutzpah that I think we all appreciate. Like, this person's dialed in. This person's trying to figure it all out. Good for them. Just go ask.
Yes. Interesting. Yes. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
No.
The worst thing that can happen is no, or I don't have time right now. Can you email me back in a month? Sure.
Amazing. Great advice. Before we wrap it up, I love this interview. It's really insightful and inspiring, I have to say. Anything that we should look for, our listeners, viewers, fans, followers should look for? Anything for Caroline? Like there's something new coming up, or you're working on something, a new project, or you're giving a speak, or a new book, or you're involved in a movie or something?
I wish I was involved in a movie. If anyone wants to put me in a movie, I'm ready for my
I'm ready.
movie
She's
moment.
ready. Yes.
This isn't that exciting, but I am trying to dig in more to the sort of human experience of technology. So in terms of things at Warner Music Group, I think what'll be most exciting to see music do is continue to be those personalized fan experiences. And I think you'll see exciting things to come. As for me, I've been digging in more on the human experience of technology more. What that looks like is I've started to do a lot more video where I talk about what that means. So, for example, what does it mean for us to start talking to AI chatbots as if they're real human beings? What does that mean? What does that mean for our own human psychology? I'm trying to get into more of that, and I would love to hear from anybody that has thoughts on it, because as I said earlier, I'm just one person.
Well, before I say goodbye, one quick thing. Do you think that the video gaming industry is way ahead of the music industry as far as and technology, and they set the path where how the music business will go in the future as far as content consumption, whether it's visual? Well, you've been, obviously you came from a film and visual background, and also the audio, which is music.
It's a great question for a variety of reasons. Yes. One, there is a Deloitte study that comes out every year that looks at like time spent streaming music consumption, streaming video, social media, gaming. And younger audiences specifically have shifted more and more. It's still not taking over music consumption, but there's a lot more people playing games than have ever before. And when you look at Roblox, for instance, which is a very popular gaming platform,
and been in the metaverse business for a long time.
Right. Been in it for a long time, and is clearly trying to transform it, not just from a gaming platform, but to a social metaverse connection platform, which Correct. It is, but it's also, they're trying to turn it into a meeting place online. And the more successful they are there, the more interesting it is for everyone else. Because what I think a lot of people don't realize is when you're competing with someone, it's not just people in your same space. It's not like Cardi B is only competing with other female rappers. She's literally competing with time, right? Like, does this person decide to play a game? Do they decide to watch something on Netflix? Are they listening to her music while they're running? What are they doing? And gaming, not only because of time spent, but because of how long the track plays, is a really important business. Like TikTok, for instance. It started with very short pieces of music, right?
Correct.
But in a game, because they're playing for longer periods of time, you're going to listen to the whole track. Do you know how enticing that is for the artist, and also obviously for the people who cut SIG deals?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But now there's something new. Well, I'm sure you heard about it, and you're very much aware of it. Adaptive music. It doesn't really, that kind of goes against what we just spoke about, where you're going to have to listen to the whole track. Not anymore. Mm-hmm. The music changes as the scenario or the situation that you're in, called, the adaptive music.
There's that also, but I think it's still going to be a heavy blend because, of course, the artists in the music industry are going to want the original music. The gaming industry is going to want adapted music because it flows better with the story of the game. Yes. It'll probably be, like all things, a compromise in which there's a blend of both things being utilized. But still, inevitably, more of the artist's music will play in the gaming environment than will play in some other environments. And I think that's important for the industry. I think also gaming has been thought of as an upper funnel awareness driver for a long time. More and more, it's going to be known as a bottom funnel revenue driver, especially as the platforms themselves learn to monetize more effectively. Like Matthew Ball recently wrote an article about Roblox that was one of the most fascinating pieces I've ever read about how Roblox is continuing to learn how to monetize itself. It learns how to monetize itself. It can monetize for the partners who are inhabiting its space better. Mm-hmm. So those things will go together, meaning it turns from, we can help, people age 12 to 18 get to know this artist to, we're going to drive revenue for this artist. Obviously, that's a much different conversation for all music companies.
Yes. Interesting. Well, That wraps it up, I guess, for Soundbreaker with Carolyn. It was definitely a pleasure having you today on the show, and thank you for joining us. And this will conclude today's episode of Soundbreaker. Please make sure to follow us on socials and stay tuned and for a new episode, and keep getting more creative. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure. It was great. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.